I'm standing in front of Hume Tower, named after the 18th century Scottish philosopher David Hume. Although after some dubious allegations were made about his connections to the slave trade, it was renamed 40 George Square by Edinburgh University in 2020, allegedly a tribute to George Floyd. At the risk of being arrested for hate speech, I'm going to continue to refer to it by its original name. David Hume was a towering figure of the Scottish Enlightenment and the father of empiricism, the cornerstone of the scientific method. It's a safe bet that in Old Colton burial ground, where Hume is buried about a mile from here, some seismic activity was detected above his grave on April the 1st. That was the day the Hate Crime and Public Order Scotland Act was imposed on the Scottish people by Humza Yousaf, or, as he's become known since his resignation, less than a month after bringing in the new law, Humza the Brief, or Briefheart. Although, if he's ever seen Braveheart, I think he missed the bit in which Gibson says, "They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom." The Hate Crime Act is the antithesis of the Scottish Enlightenment, effectively ending the spirit of open debate and inquiry that characterised that great period in Scotland's history. So what is the Hate Crime Act, and what does it do?
It introduces a new offence in Scotland of stirring up hatred, either by behaviour, speech, or it could be by communication on social media. It relates to abusive, threatening or insulting behaviour, which we don't know quite what that means. The person who does it needs to attack a certain characteristic, whether it's race, or it could be transgender identity, or age, or a number of different characteristics, but it doesn't include gender.
Should you wish to report a hate crime, you won't have to go to a police station or call the police. Police Scotland have helpfully created 411 third-party reporting centres where hate crimes can be reported, anonymously if you prefer, a safe space, if you will, in which to snitch on your neighbours. Or as they say in Scotland, it's a Clype's charter. Most of these snitching centres are in community buildings such as council offices, some are even in universities, but one is in an LGBT sex shop in Glasgow called Luke and Jack. So the good people of Glasgow can now buy a black leather ball gag and report a hate crime all at the same time. Will misgendering trans people on X be an offence under the new law? Yes, according to a former prosecutor who advised J.K. Rowling to start deleting her recent tweets about the trans activist India Willoughby, since they would most likely contravene the new law. Needless to say, she remains defiant. And when I say she, I mean J.K. Rowling, not India Willoughby.
We had members of our network, hardened feminists who have been radical feminist activists for 30 years longer, deleting their Twitter accounts because they thought their activism, their reasonable, rational, polite speech, if deemed offensive by someone on the other side of the political spectrum, could end up with them facing if not prosecution, if not 7 years jail time at the very worst, perhaps fines, but also even the process is the punishment, right? They take your devices off of you, and they take them away and investigate them. The police, I mean, and you don't know when you're going to get those back. It could be 6 months. For someone like myself who uses devices for my creative practice, others have them for work. People were scared their children's devices would be confiscated. When you are not familiar with how the police deal with these things, you thought these vital tools in our daily life could be taken off you. So there were so many adverse things we were really worried about.
Police Scotland has issued training guidance leaked to the Herald about how threatening and/or abusive material might be communicated under Section 4 of the Act, and it includes through public performance of a play, which would almost certainly encompass stand-up comedy. That begs the question of whether the Edinburgh Fringe, the largest comedy festival in the world, can go ahead this summer. The Free Speech Union has set up a hate speech hotline, so anyone who's contacted by Police Scotland about a speech-related hate crime can get in touch with us for help. That number is 03333 403 403. That's 03333 403 403. And I've got it on speed dial. So Murdo, you've been campaigning against this law. What can be done? How can we consign it to the dustbin of history?
Well, the Conservatives in the Scottish Parliament tried to repeal it. We brought forward a motion to Parliament. Unfortunately, we didn't get support from the other parties, and now, of course, it's come into operation. I think what we're going to have to see is how the courts deal with cases that are brought before them. And we do have a precedent for this, because a number of years ago we had something called the Offensive Behaviour at Football Act that was about trying to ban the singing of particular songs at football matches. The courts treated that with ridicule. One sheriff famously said it was mince. And such was the reaction from the courts that the police too turned around and said, we can't possibly enforce this. And in time, that came back to Parliament and was repealed. And I think the Hate Crime Act is going to go the same way.
Is there a particular bin in Holyrood where these ridiculous laws eventually end up?
It's an overflowing bin. Far too many of these laws, gender recognition reform, the named person legislation, Offensive Behaviour at Football Act. I think the Hate Crime Act is going to end up going the same way.
According to Police Scotland's website, the people most likely to commit hate crimes are young men with, quote, deep-rooted feelings of being socially and economically disadvantaged, combined with ideas about white male entitlement, unquote. In other words, white working-class young men. Isn't that hate speech? This cod sociology appears on the page introducing the hate monster, a cartoon creature that looks like a hairy pepperoni and has been described as a pound shop Elmo. According to Police Scotland, this angry-looking figure represents, quote, the feeling some people get when they're frustrated and angry, unquote, and turn on other people. The hate monster loves it when you get angry, the blurb continues. He weighs you down till you end up targeting someone just because they look or act different to you. This is an example of what the Scottish writer Ewan Morrison refers to as cute authoritarianism and has been widely ridiculed. But as ex-Scottish Police Federation Chief Callum Steele pointed out, a great deal of work went into creating the hate monster. There would have been many meetings, committees and focus groups where this concept was nurtured and finessed before being agreed. I can visualise them now. Can't we... Just a second. Can't we all... Jesus! Free Speech Union, I need the hate speech hotline! So Fraser, you're a student at Edinburgh University. Has the Hate Crime Act had a chilling effect on free speech? Have you noticed, woke students being more inclined to dob you into the authorities if you say something they regard as hateful?
Yeah, so I think we already had a slight problem already in university campuses. It's already been infected since about the 60s, I'd imagine, where this hate speech was just institutionalised, but now it feels like it can go higher, and I think that creates a chilling effect to students. That university is meant to be a place of truth and to seek that truth, and nowadays that we've got to follow the rhetoric, we've got to spew the rhetoric, and that's not a case with this new hate crime bill, and we can't chase the truth, and the truth will set you free, and we can't do that anymore.
If you're worried about being arrested for hate speech, join the Free Speech Union. Not only will we have your back, but you can help us campaign to get the Scottish Hate Crime Act repealed and stop similar laws being rolled out across the rest of the United Kingdom. Humza Yousaf is gone. It's time the hate monster joined him in retirement.